Welcome to the latest edition of Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime with me, Marchant Kenney. Well, if you were a fan of 1990 Southern Miss football when we were kicking ass and taking names at the Rock, have I got a treat for you today? That's right, I'm going to go one-on-one and get a fun behind-the-scenes interview with my quarterback, the one and only Lee Roberts. Well, it's a special time also for Southern Miss baseball. Pete Taylor Park, things are really heating up over there. And one thing that's really been heating up too is a certain batting stance. I mean, it's taken the world by storm. And that's right, the batting stance of our awesome third baseman, Danny Lynch. So this week on social media, I asked the Southern Miss Nation to send me your best video impersonations of that world famous batting stance. And well, let's let the tape roll. Well, thanks so much for sending those fun videos into the show, Southern Miss Nation. Well, next up, it's interview time, and this interview is going to be absolutely awesome. It comes with a guy I respect and admire to the ends of the earth for everything he stands for, and what a great ambassador for Southern Miss that he is. So today's interview comes with my quarterback, the one and only Lee Roberts. Well, today's interview is with a guy who's in the Southern Miss Hall of Fame. He was an all-conference USA performer at Southern Miss. He's a great friend of mine and somebody I absolutely admire and look up to this day. I mean, I joke with him and call him Captain America for all he represents and just being a tremendous ambassador for Southern Miss. So with all that said, today's interview is with the one and only my quarterback, Lee Roberts. Lee, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing well, man. It's an honor to be on here with you. Obviously, we talk all the time, but this is really special. I mean, everything that you've done, getting this show off the ground, and what you and your wife have been able to accomplish, man, it's great. So I look forward to great things happening there. But man, it's an honor to sit down and talk with you for sure, man.
Oh man, we got so much history. There's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of stories to be told, man. And but thank you for the kind words with the show. You know, and a lot of people see you on ESPN right now, you know, being the play-by-play guy for numerous sports with Southern Miss for the past 8 years, working with John Cox for 9 years as the voice of color commentary for Southern Miss football. But when I think of you, Lee, I think of 1996 East Carolina. We'll get into that. I promise you that, man. So, but it all had to start somewhere. Pace, Florida. Pace High School. Tell me about the high school days, man.
Man, it was some years that were really fun. You know, you talk to your high school coach and he always says, hey, you know, the high school years are something you don't want to ever just let go. I mean, it's a place where your teammates can kind of go back to, and, you know, you can always reminisce. But honestly, my time at Southern Miss was phenomenal. But you're right, it had to start somewhere. It started at Pace, and it really started even before high school. My dad was my Little League football coach. I mean, we'll take it back to the Pee Wee days a little bit. You know, there was a stretch for 5 years. We went 40-0 in Pee Wee football. So something pretty special there. I mean, we were a team that would throw it, we'd run it. We had great defense, made a lot of noise around the panhandle of Florida, even a state championship as well. But, you know, the high school days, man, under head coach Mickey Lindsay there at Pace High School was just phenomenal. Honestly, I think back to the early 90s at, you know, what happened there at Pace. Had the opportunity to learn behind Thad Busby, a guy that went on to play at Florida State. We actually got to play each other in 96 as well. So that was another great, maybe we can talk about that a little bit later. But, you know, high school at Pace, Florida, man, it was those years where you learned, you grew as a freshman. Obviously, I played on the freshman team. I had an opportunity that year, called up to play on the JV team, and man, I thought that was a big deal, honestly, back then, man. Bus ride over to Mobile to play a JV team. And man, it was a little different. Those guys were bigger, faster, stronger. And every level that you go to, that's just the way things are. And just kind of led on to that point. Then obviously my sophomore year on the varsity, but again, playing behind Thad Busby, just a superstar in high school, an All-American there. And, just learning from him, man, it was a lot of great years.
Yeah, but you had a name for yourself pretty fast, man. One example in particular, everybody knows about the Manning Passing Academy that goes on annual around here. Well, the Bowden Passing Academy was going on in your neck of the woods. And a cool story about that, you won the upperclassman award for the best quarterback at the camp, but there was a junior high quarterback there too. Our current Southern Miss football coach, Will Hall, man, who was the best junior high guy. So you two have been knowing each other for a while, man. Talk about that little synergy right there.
Well, the first time I got to meet Coach Hall when he came on campus for his press conference, when we first sat down and chatted, that was the first thing he really brought up was then. As adults, we all think we're the same age, right? And he said that he was looking up to me as a middle schooler, looking to a high schooler, kind of stung just a little bit. But no, it's really cool that Coach Hall and I have that opportunity to go to way back to when he was in middle school and I was in high school. And honestly, I'll say this, man, the Bowden Academy, I mean, there was a lot of great quarterbacks and wide receivers that went through there. Obviously, the Bowden family did a great job coaching those guys up. My high school coach, packed us up and took us every year. So I went 3 years to the Bowden Academy, a couple years at Samford, 1 year at Auburn. That was when Terry Bowden and Tommy were there. But man, just a great camp. But yeah, just the honor to win that award. It was amazing. It really was. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a tremendous award, and you got a lot of recognition, man. D1 started calling some offers. So how'd you wind up at Southern Miss?
Man, it's kind of a long story, you take these unofficial recruiting visits, right? So I live in the panhandle of Florida, so there's Florida, there's Florida State, there's Alabama, and there's Auburn. You have to be rooting for one of those teams when you're living down there. So every weekend I'm headed to one of those schools. Try not to go to Florida State a whole lot because I knew that's where Thad was going to go. I didn't want to go back and back him up. And honestly, I went to Auburn probably the most, and it really was because of the Bowden Academy. Tommy Bowden and I really began a relationship there, and he recruited me. And again, it wasn't anything that I did on the high school field because I wasn't able to play really until my senior year as far as a starter. But a lot of success there. Finished my high school career. Really no offers. I had a visit to Samford University in Birmingham and got an opportunity for Mike Tollison to come down and talk to Coach Mickey Lindsay. Came over on an official visit. Coach Bauer came and visited me in my home. I mean, so a lot of special things I can think about at Southern Miss back to my high school days. And, really it's about connections. It's about coaches knowing each other, communication. Again, I was not a guy that just lit it up in high school. We didn't throw it a ton. We were more of a ground and pound type offense. We could throw it when we wanted to. I had some great receivers, don't get me wrong. But again, my stats are not what got me a scholarship to Southern Miss. It was connections. It was Coach Tollison, looking at the film, and then obviously the meeting with Coach Bauer was phenomenal as well. And so my junior year, I actually came over with my biology teacher, who's since passed away, Miss Charlotte Eubanks. Came over with a friend of mine. Her and her daughter just brought us over for a game. She was from Soso, Mississippi, and wanted to kind of just show us the around campus. Honestly, my high school was red, white, and blue. My competitor, my arch enemy was black and gold. So at the time, I was not a black and gold fan. And I was in the stands at Southern Miss, and she caught a picture of me with a black and gold pom-pom. And that one right there was one to remember for sure. So, and again, that wasn't what made my decision to come to Southern Miss. It was really the relationship that I was able to build with Coach Bauer, the visit in the home, and obviously when I came over for my official visit that I believe it was February that year. Just loved Hattiesburg, man. It's a great place. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great place to come to school, big time atmosphere. Just a lot of great things happening when I was here, and was just honored and thrilled to get the scholarship for sure.
Yeah, and Southern Miss is honored to get you on board. So 94, you redshirt, man, just kind of get that year under your belt. I redshirted in 93. But, we become teammates right around that time, man. And what's neat about your class when they came in, you had 4 quarterbacks in that quarterback class. You had you, a couple others, but the name Patrick Surtain was being included as a quarterback. Wound up being a pretty good DB, obviously, though. But man, that had to be neat looking back. Like Surtain was kind of being looked at a quarterback. I mean, he was a stud in high school, coming out of Carr High School in New Orleans as a quarterback slash DB.
Well, it's funny when you're getting recruited, the coaches, they say all the right things, right? I mean, obviously Coach Bauer wanted him. He said, we need somebody to come in and play right away. We had a guy that had played a couple of years, but really the offense was struggling. So I thought I had a chance to come in and play early, honestly. And I get on campus and I hear about this guy, Patrick Surtain. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is who I have to go against. I mean, this guy, but then immediately shifted him to the defense. So it was a little bit of a relief. But yeah, we brought in 4 quarterbacks that year and just a really talented class that signed in '94, and again, honored to be part of it. But yeah, some great teammates. Obviously, you and I, we go way back, lots of fun memories, and glad we're able to carry on that relationship as well, man.
Oh, heck yeah. We're going to get into a lot of those stories, but so your redshirt 94, 95 goes on. You're kind of a backup quarterback right there and heading into the spring of 96, and we'll get into something there. But there was a buzz. I remember, man, the wide receivers were talking, the tight ends were talking, like the best ball is thrown by Lee Roberts, but somehow you're still backing people up. There was a big buzz about you, man. And how'd that feel, though, knowing I might have the best ball here, but dang, I'm still a backup?
Again, the one thing my dad always said, if he could change something about me, would be my height. He said, I wish you could have been a little taller. And when I got on campus, that was kind of what I thought too. I was like, I feel like I had all the things I needed to be successful, but I wished I could have been a little taller, right? So I had to make up for it one way or the other. And so, whether it was getting the ball out of my hands quicker, being able to move my feet in between big linemen or whatever. But you're right, man. I felt like when I got on campus that I could come in and compete and play right away. Got the red shirt. Very, very glad I was able to red shirt. One, focus on school, just kind of get things acclimated to what college life was all about. And then, 95 came, was actually the backup. Heath Graham had been named the starter partway through my freshman year. And I really felt like, okay, this is about to happen again. I'm going to be behind a guy that's 1 year ahead of me. Are you kidding me? There was no transfer portal. Not that I would have gotten in it, but that just made me work a lot harder because I didn't want to sit. I didn't come to Southern Miss to hold a clipboard and to sit. I wanted to play. And, so I did. I kept working, man. It was going against some great defenses. The John Thompson defense. I mean, you never knew where those guys were. I mean, hard hitting, fast defenses, moving around. I felt like just made me better. And really like the pass skill, going against some of the best DBs in the country, really, really made me, I feel like a better passer indeed. So you talked about 95, and I got to mention this as well. Chris Windsor comes in, the start of
JUCO All-American. I remember Chris.
So
JUCO
we bring Chris Windsor in, and again, it's like a slap in the face. Obviously, you want to bring the best guys in at all times, but again, a kind of a slap in the face. So I was a backup guy in 95. Going to 96, I'm listed as number 3 guy because Chris Windsor's there now. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So again, just continue to work harder, man. I mean, that was part of it. I mean, I was a guy that didn't want to sit. I tried to be as patient as I could, but I was committed. I was dedicated. Man, I'd come home, have conversations with my dad. I'd call my high school coaches. I was frustrated because I felt like things were going in the right direction, but it just wasn't getting that shot, But 96 is coming.
Yeah, your time is coming, man. Let's talk a little bit off the football field for a second too, because your wife are a power couple, man. So let's get to spring of 96. You and your high school sweetheart, man, y'all decide to tie the knot. How was that? You got all this football stuff going on, but man, I'm getting married too. How was that all going on all at once heading into that 96 season?
Well, when you grow up, I mean, I met Tracy in the 8th grade, so we really knew each other a lot in high school. Didn't start dating until our junior year. And honestly, she had a plan to go to Auburn. She wanted to be a pharmacist. She was going to go to Auburn. She knew I was getting recruited by Auburn. That didn't help make her decision, but then I go and sign a scholarship to Southern Miss, and here she is having to make a choice. Do I go be a War Eagle, or do I go be a Golden Eagle? You can see what she chose. She chose to be a Golden Eagle. And honestly, man, and I don't even know if you know this. So we got engaged after our first semester. So we're on campus one semester. We go home for Christmas and get engaged. So that was January of 1995. and then get married a year later in March of 1996. So, again, I don't know if I would recommend that just to anybody, but I felt like us as a couple, that was what we needed as a couple. I mean, I felt like her kind of being in my corner as my supporter. We tried to hang out as much as we could, but yet I still had curfew. And so, I'd be with her, I'd get home for curfew, and then I had to worry about the studies. And, I was here first to be a student. So I made sure that I took care of that. But we just felt like once we got married, things really just started to kind of smooth out. Obviously, after that was when I was kind of named starter. So I'll give her a little credit on that, man.
Yeah, well, maybe, good luck charm right there. But you two are definitely a power couple. When people see you around you in Hattiesburg, they light up. But I do want to ask you a question, man. There was an interesting dynamic with all that on the football team that we were on together. Majority of the guys are single. We're kind of doing our thing, our single thing. And, you're married, man. How was that being a married guy, plus with the pressures of the quarterback position at a D1 level? I mean, how was all that taking all that on?
I felt like it kind of took some pressure off because I didn't have to worry about the dating scene. I didn't have to worry about, who was out there. Not that people were really interested in me, but I really did feel like it took the pressure off. But you could also kind of flip it to the other direction as like, okay, here's a guy that's focusing on his marriage, but yet he's here to play football as well. How does he kind of grow and gel with those guys? I mean, I made sure that the business was taken care of, right? I mean, I made the workouts, I made the practices, all the stuff in the off season. I want to make that a priority as well. So it was a balancing act indeed. And, I feel like, being a student athlete and being married at the same time really helped propel me into my future and really just helped me in my success. So.
Yeah, that dynamic of you, man, it's just one of the big reasons even back then I admired, look up to you, man, just the way you handle yourself, and you're married on top of it. Like, how does Lee do all this with all this pressure of being a D1 quarterback? But so let's get into 96, man. So the talent's picking up with us. We're feeling a little bit better about ourselves. Game 1, we beat Georgia 11-7. I mean, look at that score, people. It's pretty much a defensive slugfest, 11-7. So we're getting into the season, getting to about game 5, getting close to it. And the quarterback position just wasn't where it needed to be. I mean, we were 4-1, but the quarterback position, I can't repeat again, was not where it needed to be. And like I said, the buzz was Lee Roberts is the best quarterback on this team. And finally, head coach Jeff Bauer listened. And you got your shot on the most special of nights that I love to talk about, Thursday night, ESPN, 1996 at East Carolina. And I'll just let you take over the story, man, because I don't want to tell the whole thing, because your first start, what a magical night you put on, man.
Well, it couldn't have gone any better, I'll be honest with you. But like, kind of take a step back. In 95, we talked about me being the backup guy, right? So I had an opportunity to come in and do some mop-up work, had some opportunity to throw some passes. I completed more passes in 95 than I did in 96 up until that point. I think the only pass maybe I had attempted was at the holder position on a fire. Okay. So I may have been 0 for 1 before I went in as the starter, but it just goes to show you the confidence the coaches have in you. And again, what you do in practice hopefully will correlate to the games. And I feel like that is what happened to me. So again, I just attribute it to hard work, dedication, just continue to try to press forward. But yeah, Coach Bauer, man, he had the opportunity to make a quarterback change. Everybody in the world thought it was going to be Chris Windsor. And when he named me the starter, he took a lot of heat for it. And he'll tell you today, I mean, he took a lot of heat for it. But so although he made the decision, it was Coach Norman Joseph, who was my offensive coordinator, who actually made the phone call. Coach Joseph calls me, says, hey, he wants to meet with me. This was, on a Monday on an open week. And I'm like, what in the world? I feel like I'm getting called to the principal's office, right? I mean, I honestly had no idea what was going on because I knew I was listed technically as the 3rd string guy. Well, Coach Joseph calls him in his office and says, Lee, we've talked as an offensive staff. We feel like it's a need to make a change at the quarterback position. And again, I'm sitting here thinking, man, we're 4-1. Yes, we beat Georgia earlier in the year, but yet we're ready to make a quarterback decision. Our only loss is to Alabama. Well, indeed they do. And, it was an unbelievable day for me. Again, Coach Joseph relays the information. I immediately go home, tell my wife, I get on the phone, I call my dad. there's one of my special high school coaches who was also a baseball coach of mine. I called him. I mean, so many people I was able to call and just, thank for, their support and this and that. But man, 1996 at East Carolina, Marchant, I was again fortunate because I had a little extra time. It was we had a full week of practice and then a little over half a week because we had the open week. So about 10 or 11 days of preparation. I remember guys like you coming up to me and giving me support. I mean, it just endless teammates coming up and giving me pats on the back, pats on the butt, just saying, "Hey, we got you. You're with us. You're the guy. Let's go lead this team." And that's what I did. I tried to do that, man. And I remember my first pass at East Carolina got the snot knocked out of me. I remember my wristband actually came off my arm, and I had to go back and pick it up.
Wait, Lee, you got hit so hard, your wristband flew off.
Yes, I got hit so hard, my wristband flew off my wrist. I had to go pick it back up because because I had certain plays on it, right? So I had to go pick it up so we get ready for that next play. But I mean, just a magical night. My family was there. My wife rode up with her family. My parents were able to make the trip as well. John Cox, he kind of tells the story that he remembers right before kickoff, he sees the Roberts clan finally piling in. I mean, it was a long drive from Pace, Florida to Greenville, North Carolina, there at East Carolina. But again, a magical night. I can even remember Wednesday night at the hotel, walking around with Coach Joseph, just trying to calm my nerves and, going on the field early, just trying to calm my nerves. It's, so much emotion in your first start. But honestly, I think the best thing that could have happened to me was to get a hit as hard as I did that first play. And then from that point forward, I'm like, hey, let's just go. Let's just go do what you're used to doing and play the game you love. And that's exactly what I did.
Golly, that's an amazing way to put that from a quarterback position. It's like a boxer. They get hit that first time, that snaps them into that zone. Okay, we're fighting. Right. Sometimes you just need to get hit, man. I mean, I know as a linebacker, what that first hit, all right, let's go. So that's funny you put it like that. But, man, what a magical night you had. 13 straight completions. You finished 14 out of 16, just a monster performance. We're all hamming it up in the camera on ESPN with the big win in Greenville, South Carolina, thanks to that magical arm from Lee Roberts that night. So we're known for defense, though, quite a bit back in the 90s. I know some of the stuff we did on defense, man, and we're chugging along with the season. We got our quarterback now. You're doing great things, and we get to week 10, man, and at Houston. We're 8-1. We're top 20, and all of a sudden we forget how to play defense and how to tackle people. And you put on a show, almost 400 yards of offense, set a school record. Kendrick Lee, wide receiver, set the school record for receiving yards. You guys are doing their thing, and we can't do a thing and lose 56-49 in overtime, man. It was just, Lee, that one hurts, man, to this day. We let you down on defense.
It stings, and not because of y'all letting anybody down. You didn't. I mean, offense had their struggles throughout the year, but I mean, if you remember, we came up just short. I mean, inches, foot maybe.
Brandon Francis, the swing pass, yeah.
Yes, it was a swing pass to Brandon Francis, and just comes up a little short. But I think everything happens for a reason. I mean, they gave us the motivation for the next year. I mean, obviously we wanted to win the Conference USA outright. Back in '96, we were just in an alliance with Conference USA. Or no. In '95, we were in an alliance.
That was the alliance, '96, yep.
'96 was the first year, so they only sent one team to a bowl game. And man, you talking about stinging, right? I mean, you're technically co-champs of the conference, but yet you're sitting at home at Christmas watching everybody else play. And man, it just kind of led to the '97 season, right?
Lee, some old wounds don't heal, man. If there's one thing that doesn't heal very well, it's that '96 season. We finished 8-3. We're top 20 some of the season, conference co-champs. And only one team from Conference USA went to a bowl, and that was the champ. And unfortunately, it was Houston that year. So some wounds just don't heal, man. Some wounds just don't heal. That's definitely one.
Yeah, but fortunately, as I'm looking past your head, I'm seeing that Liberty Bowl behind you. So
yeah, we're going to get in all this.
If we could see in the future, we would know
all this stuff.
We would know good things are coming. But yeah, man, I mean, that was a tough year. It was, man. I mean, making a quarterback change, just really having again, the way you started beating Georgia and then losing the final two games of the year, it was tough. I mean, a very good Houston team and then a Florida State team. Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The Florida State.
People still ask me, say, Lee, what was the toughest game as far as being hit in your career? And immediately I have to talk about the 96 Florida State team. And man, I mentioned earlier that I played with Thad Busby in high school. So Thad was a starting quarterback on that team. So, that was a game where I was looking forward to as well. You had a lot of guys from Pace, Florida that made the trip down to Tallahassee, and they had shirts made up that were half garnet and gold, half black and gold, that had, a picture of a quarterback on both sides for Lee and Thad. It was just a kind of a neat deal. Thad got the better end of the deal that night. Warwick Dunn had a big night, right? But man, Peter Boulware, Renard Wilson, and Andre Wadsworth, 3 names that were all on the same defensive line that were coming at us all night long. That was
you took a question from me. I was going to ask you what the hardest hits, hardest defense, but I do remember it had to be that Florida State team. They were loaded with number one, the pick on the defensive line, Wadsworth, NFL draft picks all over the offensive defensive side of the ball. I mean, they were loaded, man. I mean, we hung in there in the first half. We did. It was 14-14 late in the first half, but then they just took over, man.
Well, my kids asked me about being, some of the hardest hits. So I kind of share that story with them sometimes. They're like, who are those guys? Who are they? I'm like, just go look them up, and you kind of said it, first rounder, second rounder. I mean, those guys were unbelievable defensive linemen, and all on the same defensive line at one time, man. Impressive.
Absolutely. But still finish 8-3, and don't get to go bowling, which set the tone for the next season, the slogan we had. But I kind of want to take a break from this, man, and talk about our leader, Coach Jeff Bauer. How is it for you personally at the quarterback position? Because he was more on the offensive side of the ball. How is it personally for you being coached by head coach Jeff Bauer?
It was neat because, I had 2 different coordinators. I had Norman Joseph my first couple of years, and then Larry Keck my next 2 years. So you get very close with the coordinators. But Coach Bauer, man, he was my dad away from home. I mean, he really was. He was the guy that came and sat in my living room, and he looked my parents in the eyes and said he was going to take care of me, and he did. And just a special guy. I mean, a special man, a guy that I'll always look up to. And again, we had that bond as well because he was a quarterback at Southern Miss. And, you just kind of, you wear those jerseys, man. You just have that bond and one that will never be broken. So, man, I could go on and on talking about Coach Bauer, but just as a person, as a coach, just kind of on the field, off the field, a guy that, we kid with him about, saying, hey, academics is academics is
school first, football second. School first, football second.
Right. I had to think about it there, but obviously he just kidded with that. But he was a guy that made you go to class. I mean, they checked up on you and they wanted you to excel on the field as well as off the field. And man, just a great leader, and it speaks volumes of what he was able to do at Southern Miss, and until he finished his career, late in the early 2000s. Man, Coach Bauer will forever be one of the greatest coaches at Southern Miss.
Yeah, and then in all college football, you asked me everything he did, man. And my first show that I put this one together was a no-brainer for Jeff Bauer to be my first interview. So I was so blessed to do that and tell his story. But, man, so we're getting back on the football field, this 1997 season, man. Let's call it what it is. We knew we were good. We knew we were going to be good.
Right.
The goals we were going to set, either 10, 11, 12 wins for the season. We didn't quite get there, but we knew we were going to be good, man. And the theme of that season was unfinished business. And if you looked at the schedule, circle that Houston game. That was the one. I'm sorry, man. So what was your mindset heading into that 97 season, knowing we were going to be pretty good, man?
We were. I mean, because we had, we kind of had our offense in place. I know we lost a few guys on the offensive side, but man, we had some studs coming up. We had a couple running backs back, a couple young wide receivers. Offensive line was really, really good. Defensively, I felt was salty. You there in the center, man. I mean, they talk about the nasty bunch, man. I mean, we had the nasty bunch back in those years for sure. So yeah, we knew we were going to be good, but we knew we had some business to take care of, and we had to put 96 to bed. We had to just put it to bed, and had to press forward because it started on day one in August when we started and got on campus. And back then we had two-a-days. These guys today, they don't know what two-a-days are, but man, just thankful for those times. I mean, bonds made, memories made, sweat, blood, tears, grinding it out because we knew what we wanted. The only thing we fell short is, we had three losses that year, but to really, really good football teams. But we're able to run the conference, beat Houston at home, man. And
Well,
that game,
let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I do want to break a few things down, if you don't mind, Lee.
yeah.
I kind of want to set the tone for that season. So,
Okay.
People do say that 97 team, I've heard it a lot. Many people say that's arguably the best team in Southern Miss football history. I'm not arguing with them. I don't think you'll argue with them either, Lee.
I'm not going to argue.
No. So, but the tone of that season, people understand we played 4 home games back then. We had 4 that year. So, we had an uphill fight, definitely getting a lot of wins. But, Lee, I'm going to bust your chops a little bit because, we didn't show up in that 96 Houston game on defense. But let's get that first game, 97, man. We're playing at Florida, defending national champs. Lee, we get a little more offense.
I know.
We get a win on primetime ESPN against Florida. So you can always point fingers with Houston, but come on, man, a little more offense.
I know. I agree.
What happened in Florida, Lee? What happened?
Well, you talked about how good we were, and we knew how good we were. But you never want to start the season 0-1, and that's what happened. And man, you had to sit back and think, man, what do we have to do? We knew going down to the Swamp wasn't going to be easy. You said it, defending national champs, playing against a top tier SEC team on national television. Yeah, we came a little short. Defensively, we did well. Just 1 touchdown offensively, but man, just a tough afternoon in the Swamp for sure. And again, I think you just start to try to build on every game from that point forward. And we didn't start like we wanted, man. So we had to figure things out quickly.
Yeah, heck yeah, and we did. Next week, smashed Illinois on national TV, ESPN. So we knew we were good, and got a game coming up. And I do want to talk about this, the Nevada home game, my first game of the season in 1997. And, head coach Jeff Bauer means the world to you, means the world to me. I mean, just an absolute father figure, mentor to us. And, his daughter, Kristen, was almost like a little sister to a lot of us on the football team. And she was always around, just a special family member for us all. And unbelievably tragic news, you remember just the week of the Nevada game, we got word of her passing. And, it's hard to talk about still to this day, bring it up. But, to watch Coach Bauer man up and just stand up and just be strong for us. And, I will never forget that, Lee. And I don't want to tell my whole side of it because this is your interview, but man, we'll tell the vibe, if you don't mind, of just that week leading up to Nevada and just that horrible news we all got, man.
Again, it's just one of those things you never want to see a parent go through. You never want to see a parent have to bury their own child. And, unfortunately, that was what happened here. And, just a tough night. I mean, Kristen, a beautiful young lady, had the world ahead of her, but the Lord called her home. And, to see the way Coach Bauer and Miss Debbie responded, their faith and just how they believed. And I mean, they still had Stephanie, so they had to be strong for Stephanie as well. She was a little younger at the time, but man, for him, and I don't even think he missed practice, So for him to be able to keep his focus, I mean, he may have missed some meetings and some planning, but yet he had a staff in place that could help do that. But man, he didn't miss practice. And I gotta say, man, that is a tough thing for him to do. But maybe mentally, that was just the thing he had to do, was to keep his focus and to try to keep going with what he knew what was best. And I mean, he knew he couldn't change the situation, but man, you got to give a lot of credit to Coach Bauer for the focus and the dedication, because he knew too. I mean, he knew what we went through in 96, and he knew we were, had some unfinished business, and he wanted to leave it all on the table for us as well. And he did, man. It was a very, very tough time, but man, he never wavered. He was always there for us. He was strong at practice, but he had a great support staff as well.
Oh, absolutely. Talking to him week 1 of this show about, her death, and, I really got a strong feeling, just like I felt back then. He needed a shoulder to lean on. That shoulder was us, man. And all we did was hold him up that week. And Nevada didn't stand a chance that week. We were in all black, and I was salty. Almost got thrown out the games. Just, I get sometimes, but we, took care of them, man. And we took care of a lot of people that season. And I want to take a quick break too with talking about a couple players you played with, man. We had a thunder and lightning show in the backfield. Harold Shaw, the train, Eric Booth, arguably the fastest guy in college football. How is it having those two guys in the backfield, the thunder and lightning express, man?
We know, honestly, it took away from our passing game is what it did.
Great answer.
But I was okay with it, man. I was okay with it. I'm like you. I wanted to see the wins on the win column come up. I didn't care about, if we had rushing yards or passing yards, or if it was defensive touchdowns or special teams. I didn't care. I felt like, we had 22 guys playing football, 22 starters at any given time. And man, to have those guys in the backfield, man, it was impressive. And you look back at those guys and what they were able to accomplish. And, I can't think of another tandem in the backfield. Maybe Auburn had, Cadillac Williams and Ronnie losing.
Yeah, I know you're talking about that duo.
But they had a duo running backs as well. But man, I can't really ever remember two like Harold and E. Booth, man, that were just as studs as they were, and kind of a different style. I mean, Booth wasn't small. No. Harold was a big back. He'll run over you, but he could also run by you. But man, you talk about the speed of Booth, man. He was something as well, and a kickoff return specialist. Super impressed backfield for sure. And I kidded about taking away the passing game. The passing game came. We had some studs out there as well. But man, the running backs, I loved handing the ball off and just watch them do their thing, man.
Oh, heck yeah, man. But one thing that's maintained through this 97 season after East Carolina, man, we had stability in you at the quarterback position. We finally had a guy. We didn't have anything to worry about. Just go do our thing, because Lee Roberts is under center and things get tough. He's going to handle business. And we handled business all through the season, man. And it got, all the way to that Houston game that we had circled, man, at the Rock. We win this, we win Conference USA, we get to the Liberty Bowl. The unfinished business slogan is right here. What was your mindset going into this Houston game? Because I know I was ready. That's all I got to say.
Oh no, I mean, I was ready too. I mean, it was the year of 96 that I didn't want to happen again. So I made sure that the offensive side took care of their part. I knew you guys on the defense were going to take care of your part as well. And man, it was a great week of preparation. And again, it was something that we had circled on that calendar, and we knew that the Conference USA Championship was going to run through Hattiesburg, but we had to run through Houston for it to happen. And when they came to our house, man, we did. We took care of business, and it was never even close, man. I felt like we just dominated, in all three phases of the game, and really showed Houston who the best team of the conference was that year. Yeah,
man, beat them 33-0. And I think the score could have been worse. But when I think of that game too, which really solidified that season, when you say the hit.
Oh, man.
And if you're talking about a swing pass that Houston tried, and Patrick Surtain, our cornerback, our stud cornerback, read it fast, and literally, Lee, you remember, knocked the teeth.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can see
that wide receiver. He's getting up, he's picking up his teeth. I hate to laugh about it, but man, that's how bad we wanted to beat Houston.
Oh,
Pat Surtain the hit.
You're not lying. I mean, that hit today probably he'd have been fined or ejected. I mean, whatever.
That ain't working today.
but no, in 97, man, it was legit. I mean, I remember we used to give the big hit award, man. And I know he got it for that week indeed, but yeah, to knock somebody's tooth out, man. I mean, that's some
his teeth, not just tooth.
Yeah, I mean, knocking his teeth out, man. That's serious right there. I mean, it just goes to show you the kind of player Surtain was. And again, just it was meant to be for that 97 team, Southern Miss team, for sure.
Heck yeah, man. And we finished 8-3, top 25, and we get to what's considered the standard for Southern Miss football at that point. That's getting to the Liberty Bowl and to play Pittsburgh. And for whatever reason, just because Pittsburgh was from a bigger conference or what have you, all this P5 talk, what have you, they really, I thought, took us a little light. Lee Corso picked against us on ESPN that day. But talk about the tone heading to that Liberty Bowl, man, because kind of showed the nation just how good Southern Miss was at that point.
We really did. I mean, it was a great week. It really was. I mean, going back to that week, man, I had a little bit of laryngitis, and so we actually at practice had to work on some hand signals for me to call the cadence. I fortunately was able to get my voice back by game time, but I mean, it was just, we weren't going to let anything just stop us. The Houston game, we took care of business. We knew we needed to get through Pittsburgh, and we did. I mean, the Liberty Bowl, people didn't believe in us outside of Southern Miss faithful. And man, did they show up. That was a Liberty Bowl that was packed full of Southern Miss fans, and a cold night, but man, a week that was just phenomenal. I can remember just, different things we did. I mean, the bowls do a great job, organizing the team functions, but I can remember fans down on Bill Street just talking the noise. They were nowhere to be found on December 31st that night, man, as we ring in the new year. They were nowhere to be found.
I mean, Lee, if I could bottle up this moment, I mean, I came out as team captain before the game, and I looked up, and just before Google, you don't know how many tickets are sold, how many people are going to be there. I knew it was going to be a big event, but I saw it come out the tunnel, and I look up at the stadium, and there is a literal sea of 25,000 plus Southern Miss fans. And you know me, I'm like getting the crowd up, and this energy is coming down on me, and I'm like, holy, if I could sell that energy in that moment. But that was that crowd that whole night, dude, and that was the definition of Southern Miss, if you ask me. That 97 Liberty Bowl, man, the fans, it was all one. It was the team, it was the fans, coach. It was incredible, man.
Well, and that's what's sad about like it is now. I mean, the conference champion doesn't go to the bowl game. They kind of changed things up. But back when we were playing, man, I mean, it was the pinnacle for us. I mean, we knew that if we won the conference, we knew where we were going. Memphis was a place where we could travel a lot of fans, and we did, man. I mean, it was what the guys did on the field, but man, credit the fans as well, man. I mean, people talk about the passion of our fan base, and we've seen it in all sports. I mean, they travel, they get loud, they get rowdy, and man, you feed off that, a lot of great things happen. And man, we'll get back to filling the Rock soon, but I can remember some great times at the Rock and the Liberty Bowl, just seeing that sea of black and gold, man. It's a special feeling, man.
Yeah, that was a team effort. Fans, players. I mean, one team right there. But I want to talk about one thing, too, with you, too. When I think of you, I actually think of two things, Lee. I think of 1996 at East Carolina when your magical arm just went off. And then I think of that play, first touchdown of the Liberty Bowl game, man. It is the most gorgeous football play you will ever see. Roberts play action on a post route to Gideon, and it's just this beautiful spiral. Gideon catches it. He turns the salute to Pinkston. Yeah. It's the most beautiful football play you'll ever see, man. What does that play mean to you? Because I'll text you that every now and then. I'll tweet it. It's just so cool. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, and I do. I mean, I see that play all the time, and I mean, I can run it in the back of my head now. I mean, it was one of those play fakes to Harold Shaw in the backfield, and you get your feet set, and you got a one-on-one route with Sherrod Gideon down the middle. And I mean, he's a guy that we just had some connection throughout the year. I mean, I kind of knew where he was going. He knew my thought process as well. But that right there was just a well-run route by Gideon and a pass. I just had to throw it up, let him go get it. But yeah, I can see that salute, man. It's all over, any kind of Southern Miss hype video, man. You can see the Sherrod Gideon salute. So special. But we talk about the two wide receivers, man. We talked about
Lee, let's get into that, man. That was actually my next question. You read my mind. What was it like having, to me, the greatest wide receiver duo in Southern Miss history, Sherrod Gideon and Todd Pinkston? What was it like working with those guys, man? You three were just on point, man, when things were clicking.
It was as good as it could be, honestly. I mean, you got two guys, different type receivers. Sherrod was playing a split end. Todd played the slot. On the other end, the flanker, you had Eddie Shaw, who's the brother of Harold Shaw. I mean, you had three receivers that were really, really good. But man, just the connection that we had. And I talked about what Sherrod and I could do, but man, Pink, he's a guy that's 6'3". He could stretch it out. I remember he saved me one of those passes in the Liberty Bowl. He went up and caught a ball that was high and ended up coming down and hitting himself right in the midsection with the ball. But those guys believed in me. I believed in them as well. Whether it was throwing out routes or throwing the ball deep, we just kind of knew each other. And it really went back to, just a lot of pass skill, a lot of one-on-one summer routes. Just connection with those guys. Again, back believing in each other, me believing in them, and man, a little talent helped as well. Those guys were super talented for sure.
Take nothing away from you. The prettiest spiral deep ball in college football in my eyes. And like I said, that play that I just talked about, you to Gideon, it's just gorgeous. I can't get enough of it. It's like a beautiful sky, clear sky. So it is what it is. But football play can be gorgeous. That one is,
Yeah.
man.
No, absolutely.
I
agree.
So yeah, 97's done, man. My time's over, and I got to say goodbye, Lee. Shed some tears, what have you. But what a great way to end it. But you still got more to go, man. And heading into 98, man, we're a top 25 football team. At that point, we are the best, what they call now, Group of 5 football program in America, if you ask me. But man, it's anyone, anywhere, anytime. Just like the name of this show. You guys are opening up at Penn State in a home game against Texas A&M, man. How was that starting? That kind of start. I mean, that's pretty rough right there, man.
It was rough. One, going to Penn State was rough because, I mean, that was just a very tough place to play. Yeah. We talked about filling the rock, with black and gold. Man, they had a lot of blue and white in their stadium that night. Man, just a fun trip. The fans got to go enjoy, the Hershey plant. Some of the coaches did, the wives, however, and it was a business trip for us guys, and we fell a little short. So we didn't really get started that year the way we wanted. So similar to 97, losing game 1, normally you want to play a team where you can try to win. Southern Miss, anyone, anywhere, anytime, as you just said it. I mean, we'll play anybody at any given time.
Yeah.
And starting out with defending national champion in 97, starting out with Penn State in 98, man, it puts a pressure on us guys for sure. But a tough loss on the road. But and then you mentioned the A&M game, man.
Yeah, and really want to break that down if you don't mind, Lee. So leading up to that game, man, speaking of pressure, you got all these things going on being a D1 quarterback, man. You got an unbelievable wife. Things are going great, man. But I actually heard an interview with you. You had to keep a pager on you at practice the week of Texas A&M game because you don't know because Tracy's pregnant. This baby could be born anytime, man. That's right. Talk about that week trying to focus on beating Texas A&M, but man, I got a baby on the way. I got a pager on me at practice, man.
So we lived off campus, and I used to ride my bike, to campus, and every day I did, and I wore a pager. Cell phones really were not a big thing back then, so it didn't really have that communication. So I would wear that pager, except at practice. I'd give that pager to Pat Stewart. Pat was the wearer of the pager, so that.
And that's our head equipment manager. Everybody don't know. Our head equipment.
So Pat, who is now married to his wife, Ty, she was working in the athletic facility. So he was inside the facility that Tuesday afternoon at practice when the pager went off. And when I saw him running across the field, holding that pager up, I knew what was happening. Okay. I mean, we were not quite full term, and we were just a week and a half shy. But a healthy baby boy indeed. But man, when Pat was running across the field, I was like, what in the world? I turned to Coach Larry Keck. I said, I'm gone. And again, I was on my bike, so I had to have somebody carry me to the apartment real fast. So they carried me over there. I showered, hustled up to the hospital where Tracy had already been admitted. But man, she drove herself to the hospital after visiting with her doctor that afternoon. He knew she was in labor. Talk about a tough one now. She drove herself to the hospital in labor. So man, I'm glad women get to do that than us men. But I was her support staff that evening. But you talked about pressure. It was a long night. So left practice, 4:00, maybe 4:30, get to the hospital. We didn't have Brendan till in the wee hours of the next morning. A long night. Spent some time with them. Went home to get some rest because I knew I had class and practice, and then had some news that he had a little bit of a infection, so wasn't sure what was going on. It was really touch and go there for a little while. So you kind of add having a brand new baby to a 21, 22-year-old kid in college that's trying to get ready for that win in Texas A&M. You talk about very, very tough. I mean, the rest of that week was super tough. On that Friday, we used to always go to the movies after dinner, and Coach Bauer let me, skip movies that night, go to the hospital, spend some time with Tracy and Brennan. So, and again, kudos to Tracy. She was in the stands that Saturday afternoon against A&M. So,
yeah, that was a big game, man. And what a week, what a story right there, man. First being a D1 quarterback. Oh yeah, I got a baby on the way, and I got the wrecking crew from Texas A&M who were really good back then coming at the Rock, and y'all played them tooth and nail, man. It was a tough game. They got the better of it, but that is what it is. So, but man, Lee, in your 3 years of being starting quarterback at Southern Miss, man, you lost 2 conference games. That's how good we were back then. That's how good Lee Roberts was back then, people. And but unfortunately, one of those losses came in '98 against the Tulane team, who wound up being magically good and go 12-0. And when I say Tulane didn't go 12-0 back then, they didn't go 12-0. But all of a sudden, everything went right there, man. Man, how tough was that Tulane loss for you, man?
It was tough. We talked about, that Florida State game in '96, just how many times I got hit. I got hit in that Tulane game, and I will never forget. Again, you talked about Pat Surtain's hit being one that would be fined or ejected. When I got hit, the defensive guy, he would have been ejected for sure. But again, that just wasn't part of football back then. A tough loss, a game that I was knocked out of, didn't even get to finish the game. Jeff Kelly came in and finished the last few minutes, but another close one, man, another close one. But Tulane was able to get the better end of us. And again, you kind of go through those growing pains, man. I think at that point we're 1-3, thinking, man, we're coming off a 9-3 year last year. I mean, I know we lost Marchant, but was he that good? No, I'm kidding.
I don't make this stuff up, Lee.
Yeah. So to start 1-3, man, I mean, that was tough. So we had to kind of regroup, man. After that,
I mean, Lee, look at the schedule. It's at Penn State, top 20 team. I think there were 13, A&M 17, and Tulane winds up being 12-0. Could have played for the national championship if there was a playoff back then. They would have actually probably. But the start was just that's about as brutal as it gets as far as toughness, man.
I agree. It was tough. It was even tougher to be a senior on that team as well, man. Knowing we were 1-3.
but the thing is, man, this is the magical Lee Roberts, the toughness, the grit, like we always say at Southern Miss, Lee Roberts. You get everybody rallied up, get the troops together. You guys win 6 of the last 7. And I want to talk about this last game too at Nevada, man. I mean, you have put together such a career. You're shattering the record books. You're in every statistical category you can name: passing yards, completion, whatever. So, man, it's getting to be the Nevada game. You guys are about to win. Hopefully I tell the story right. You can finish it with, whatever. And you are going to this game with a great opportunity to beat Brett Favre's all-time touchdown record. So it gets to be late in the game. I think you guys are about to win. And so Coach Bauer pulls the starters. But, man, you are one touchdown off of at least tying Brett Favre's record. Dude, right. Were you pissed at Coach Bauer? Like, wait, or did you even know the record? I don't know, man, because
I didn't even realize I was even that close. I mean, I may have known going in that I needed a few touchdowns or whatever, but that was the furthest thing from my mind. Now, if you ask my parents, that may have been a different thing, right? I mean, they wanted to see it happen, but so he did. He pulled the starters out. I'm one touchdown shy of times Brett's 52 career touchdown record. And, Nevada ends up scoring really quick. And so he quickly puts the starters right back in. And so offensively, we're able to march down the field. I ended up throwing my 52nd touchdown pass, to I believe it was Eddie Shaw. And just phenomenal. Again, not knowing at the time that I was able to tie Brett Favre's career touchdown record, but looking back, I mean, I thought that was just kind of a neat thing that you're pulled out, then you're put back in, then you have that opportunity again. Coach Bauer didn't do it so I would get a record, but he's a coach that, hey, let's preserve these guys if we need. We're not going to run up a score, but he knew we needed to get in and get one more score, and so we were able to.
Oh, heck yeah, man. And tying Brett Favre for the all-time touchdown record was huge. I mean, Favre had just come off a Super Bowl win literally a year before. So y'all are in the same breath. Lee Roberts, Brett Favre, baby. So you guys do get a chance to go to a bowl. Unfortunately, Tulane just had this unbelievable season. I mean, 12-0. I mean, who'd ever saw that coming? Or else you guys, for Conference USA champs, go to Liberty Bowl. Get to go to the Humanitarian Bowl, man. Got another bid to get 2 teams into a bowl. Man, the Humanitarian Bowl is, speak of the character that Lee Roberts is, where I call him Captain America. He's literally my role model. I joke with you, but it's real, man. I've said this in front of you, in front of people. And but man, you win a cool award that week, man. You win the Humanitarian Award, and it's presented by one of the greatest sportsmen of all time, David Robinson, of the legendary NBA player. How was that getting that award, man? Because like I said, you're just Captain America to me, man. That just made sense.
It was really cool, and they did a really special thing that night. I mean, it was a banquet where both teams were there. Idaho's running back also received the award. So it was really, really special for both of us to accept it. But for David Robinson to give it to us, I thought that was, I mean, because he's a humanitarian as well. Just the things that he's been able to accomplish in his life and career, it was special. It really was. I mean, to think about the accolades, that we had as a team, that I was able to accomplish because of great teammates. But that award was really special right there. I mean, it just very, very good meaning, and I was honored to receive it, humbled to receive it as well.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. Unfortunately, don't win the bowl game, but you do get MVP. I mean, that's how good you were. And Southern Miss fans are sad that Lee Roberts' career is over, man. I mean, it's like, what are we going to do with the quarterback position now, to really fill those shoes? You smashed record books at Southern Miss. You did everything you really could have, man. But so I get asked all the time, man, did Lee Roberts go to the NFL? What team was he on? Because you were just that talented, man. So if you don't mind talking to me about couple NFL shots you had there after your career was over.
Yeah, so actually before I graduated that December. I started doing some interviewing with a couple pharmaceutical companies and had gotten a job offer from Pfizer, my current company, and so I had accepted it. So that was in January of 1999. The draft is not till April, so from January to April, all these athletes are, they're training, they're working out, they're hiring agents, they're having a senior day, a pro day. They're doing all these great things when I'm over studying, an antibiotic, and I'm studying an antidepressant that I'm going to be selling, so I say all that to say this. So I'm in the Atlanta regional office in the middle of training and get a call from Indianapolis. They want to fly me up to try me out. And I had to woefully decline. And then another time I'm in a wedding for Frank Firestone, who was my center, one of my greatest friends at Southern Miss as well. In his wedding, the week of, Dallas calls, wants to fly me out to, try me out as well. I had to decline again. And it wasn't because I was in Frank's wedding. It wasn't because I was married. It wasn't because I had a kid and I had to provide for my family. I just felt like it was time to kind of hang up the cleats. I mean, I'd finished my playing career with, a lot of great memories, and really just felt like it was time to hang it up and get out in the business world and, see what it's all about. So, fortunately I'm able to walk, no major injuries. And again, I just feel like that was the plan God had for me. So again, honored to have the opportunity to be called to go try out, but yeah, had to decline on those. So,
oh heck yeah, man! And hang your hat on a tremendous Southern Miss football career. And one of the cool things, man, in 2009, we got inducted into the Hall of Fame together, man. Right. I mean, that's just. I don't know what I was more excited about, me going to the Hall of Fame or me being inducted with my quarterback, Lee Roberts, man. Dude, just what a special night. What'd that mean for you in 2009 to get inducted to that Hall of Fame?
Man, just super special. And I actually serve on the M Club board now, and I get to see all these different athletes as they're inducted. And man, it again, just an humbling experience, an humbling honor to go in with a former teammate. I mean, it's just super, super special that you're thought of that well amongst the university and former athletes and the M Club. I mean, to wear the black and gold. I know John will ask you all the time, what does it mean to wear the black and gold, man? It's special. It really is. And, just the teammates, the bonds, just the things that we do a lot with a little. And, I don't take that with a grain of salt. I mean, it's the truth, man. We're able to accomplish a lot of great things. And again, so my playing career, it really started back when I was about 6 years old with my dad, and it finished when I was 22 as a dad with, a son and a wife. But again, yeah, so 10 years or so later after my playing career is over, have that opportunity, man, very, very special. And to go in with you, it made it extra special night.
That was awesome, man. And you're kind of hitting on something, what it feels like to be Southern Miss. As I'm doing this show, I do fan comments, and Lori Brechtel had a fan comment not too long ago that I loved, explaining what it's like to be a Southern Miss fan. And she says, it's in a state where we're dealing with Ole Miss and Mississippi State SEC stuff. It's like, we're audacious. Yeah. We go against the norm. And that's literally, it's easy to be an Ole Miss State fan. It is. Go ahead, go do your thing.
Absolutely.
You go against the norm and you got this grit. I can't explain it, man. It's a cool thing. be a Southern Miss person.
No, I agree, man. And now, I mean, it's being preached on campus with Dr. Joe Paul, our president. So he talks about that too. So, that grit, being audacious, man, setting audacious goals. It's super special, man.
Heck yeah. And man, you are just a tremendous ambassador for Southern Miss. Doesn't get much better. So for the past 9 years, you've been working with John Cox up in the booth for Southern Miss football games, being a color guy, working with John as play-by-play. You guys are great. And then also for the past 8 years, you've been doing ESPN as a play-by-play guy for numerous sports. So how's that been, man, giving back to university like that?
Well, I never really thought commentating would kind of be in my blood. I know if you ask like John, he knew from the get-go that's what he wanted to do for his career. My dad was he was a PA announcer at my high school, and so I kind of knew that. But obviously, commentating is totally different. And I actually had the chance to commentate 2 high school games here at my kids' high school before I had the opportunity to go work with John on campus. And man, it was fun. I mean, you've done it as well, man. It's a different aspect. You get to sit and talk about the game you love and explain this, and talk about why this happens and who does this. I mean, it's a really, really cool thing. And then just to be able to work with John Cox, man, that's a special thing as well.
I filled in for you last year. You had to take a quick break, and you wouldn't even know anything's wrong with you. Look at you now, you're Captain America, you're all healthy, back up and running. But no, I was until you see it and it full force, until you see John Cox in the booth, right? The attention to detail, man. the expertise he puts into that, until you're in that booth with him, right. you can't earn enough respect for him for the job that man does and the effort he puts into putting the product out. I was wild. I was wild about what he does until I saw it. And you've been seeing it for 9 years, man.
Oh yeah. And I mean, if you have to learn from someone, man, he's the greatest to learn from. And not only a great play-by-play guy, but he's his own engineer too. So he manages everything throughout the game, and just a special person, a special friend. I mean, obviously we had that, John and I had that relationship as a player, voice relationship, and now we're able to have it as commentator and a voice relationship as well. And it's been cool, man. I was able to take over for Vic Purvis, who did it for 40 plus years, and now John's done the play-by-play role for 45 years now, I'm thinking. So it's special, man. And it's just not sitting in the booth, man. It's being around the guys. It's being in the locker room, being in the hotel, being on the trips with the team, man. There was a time in my life, because my kids really didn't play much football. They chose other sports, which was totally fine. There was just a time in my life where I was kind of away from the game, and this brought me back. And so fortunate that John called and offered me this type position, man. It's super neat.
Yeah, and speaking of super neat, super special, I actually talked to you the day of, this basketball season for the men. It was glorious, the biggest turnaround in Division I basketball since 1974, and it all culminated in one night. And that Thursday night, when the Raging Cajuns were at Reed Green Coliseum, a sellout, and I knew it was going to be a big deal. I was driving into Hattiesburg to see it, and we talked earlier that day, and I'm like, Lee, you are so lucky you get to call this game, man. It is going to be 80s Eagle fever coming back, and it did. How was that calling that game, man?
Dude, it was loud, and you can remember back.
It was me. I was the loudest.
I mean, you can remember back when you were in school, man. There weren't many louder venues than Reed Green Coliseum when it was packed out. I mean, a place that holds around 8,000 people, and we packed them out back in the 90s, and man, this year against Louisiana, being able to pack it out again, and a special win. Again, credit to the basketball team, what they were able to do this year. Coach Ladner, just a great turnaround. 7 wins last year, 25 this year. I was able to be a big part of that, being at every home game, calling those games. Larry Boyd and myself, man, it was fun. But there were none more fun than that Louisiana game that night. Just the atmosphere, the whiteout, the students. Man, I would go back there anytime you talk about going back to a sports event. I'd go back there at any given time, man.
That was special, man. I text Coach Ladner after the game. Unbelievable job. I'll let you know what a great job you did calling on it when I watched it back. And it's so good for Coach Ladner. Nobody bleeds black and gold than Coach Ladner, man. When I had him on the show, it was show 3 or 4. I laughed. I saw his interview when he first got the Southern Miss job, and Jeremy McLean's right next to him. And he laughed with Jeremy. He's like, you know, I don't even know what I'm getting paid because it's my destination job. But this is his destination job, and it was just such a great thing for him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what you want. I mean, you want to hire coaches that want to be here at Southern Miss because they love Southern Miss. You know, I mean, a lot of these guys, they wouldn't do it for free. But hey, Coach Ladner said he wasn't even sure what he was getting paid. So kudos for him for
Hall, Berry, Ladner. We got some people that are bleeding black and gold right now, and I absolutely love it, man. So I think we'd be doing the people a disservice if you and I didn't talk a little updated football going into the 2023 season, Lee. So what are your thoughts on this team? This is year 3 of Will Hall. That schedule's rough, though, man. It is what it is. So what are your thoughts?
Man, it's year 3. It's year 2 in the Sun Belt. You know, some disappointing losses last year, but I think it's some of those losses that you're going to build on. I mean, Coach Hall's a guy that, I mean, he knows what talent he has. Unfortunately, we've battled some injuries, you know, and you never can really look at, hey, who's going to get hurt, who's not going to get hurt. So you just kind of have to plan and go. But man, I'm excited. I really am. A really good spring. Obviously getting one of the best running backs in the country back in Frank Gore. Losing our defense coordinator, that hurts, but, you know, promoting from within, which that always says a lot. You know, you just have to, anything Coach Hall does, you just have to believe and trust, because that guy, he believes and he trusts as well. And, you know, I think he's going to do a phenomenal job. Looking for big things in year 3. I mean, that's usually that year where you start to really see a lot of things. You get some of his guys on campus that he's truly recruited. And man, he's done a phenomenal job of what he's had. But yeah, year 3, I'm looking for a lot of big things.
Again, and just one more thing about the 23 season, man. You know, last 2 seasons of Coach Will Hall, little instability at that quarterback position, but quarterback room, as far as the room as a whole, got upgraded, no doubt, with some transfers. What are your thoughts on that quarterback position going into 2023?
Well, you know, you'd love to know who the starter is right now. That way they can start planning and preparing as the starter. But 2, you know, if you're not named the starter, what are you going to do? I mean, the same thing I did back in 95 and 96. You continue to compete. And so the room is much better, and it's just going to make each of those guys much better. And so as they're approaching this off season, this summer workouts, it's just going to take these guys getting on the field, getting some time down with these wide receivers, you know, obviously making sure they know this offense. But the room is larger and more talented than we've had in a while, and I'm excited about that.
Oh, heck yeah. And I joke on Twitter quite a bit, too. I want to see a Frank Gore Jr. for Heisman campaign, but that's just me, man. I just want to see it.
I'll back you. I'll back you, man.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. But there's some 23 talk. All right, Lee, definitely want to talk a little family life with you, man. You and Tracy, absolute power couple in the Pine Belt. The family's a power couple in the Pine Belt, man. Give me some family updates, man. I know you had one son play basketball for Southern Miss, too, Lee, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I mentioned that my kids are really not football players. They've each kind of done their own thing. So yeah, Blake was a basketball player. Brennan, our oldest, he played baseball in high school, but Blake did go on and play a couple of years at Southern Miss. Had to make some tough decisions to prepare himself for dental school. He's going to apply for dental school this summer. I'm super proud of what he's been able to do. My oldest is in physician assistant school in Montgomery. Bentley, our third son's getting ready to graduate high school. Marchant, we're too young to be having all these kids graduate, man. What's going on? I'm about to have three out of high school, man. That's insane.
Man, when I saw Patrick Surtain's kid get drafted in the NFL, I'm like, how old am I? Am I 70? I mean,
right.
He's in the NFL. Surtain's son is in the NFL.
Yeah, that's crazy. Anyway, so Bentley's going to graduate in a couple of weeks, and he's going to attend Southern Miss as well. So my first 3 sons are all going to school at Southern Miss. That makes me proud for sure. And then Brooks, our youngest, is a sophomore. He's a basketball, baseball guy as well. So, you know, they all love sports. They love athletics. They love Southern Miss. They're at just about every game, every venue that they can go to. They love to follow the black and gold. So couldn't be more proud of my kids. And of course, Tracy, she's right there along the way. The only female in the house, man, it's tough living in the Roberts household sometime, but she handles us well.
She's a rock, man. She's got a rock star husband, rock star family life. So good for y'all, man. Thanks for the update. Hey, Lee, I want to give you an opportunity, man, from the great Lee Roberts to tell a Southern Miss Nation maybe some words of a motivation or what have you for the future of where we're headed. Give us some words, Lee.
Well, you know, I have to live by the slogan, man. It was what we lived by anywhere, anyone, anywhere, anytime. And it's your show slogan. So you didn't pay me any money to say this, man, but I'm going to just say, hey, we're a university that's willing to do that, right? I mean, we want to go compete. I mean, we want to compete at the highest levels. So, you know, the fan support, they supported me when I was in school. You know, I've seen a lot of support. It's much more fun when, you know, the Rock is rocking, Reed Green is rocking, Pete Taylor's rocking. You know, the softball complex is rocking, you know, Southern Miss Athletics, a lot of great things happening. Our track and field, you know, won the conference championship last year, you know, first Sun Belt team to win here at Southern Miss. Obviously, basketball was the conference regular season champion. Baseball is competing. We're looking forward to great things as well. But yeah, as a former football player, fan, and a analyst, I'm looking forward to August, the end of August, first part of September, when we strap it on and have that first game. So, you know, come out, come support, and always support those Golden Eagles, man.
Oh, heck yeah, man. And kind of sandwich the show, like I said earlier, you know, my great friend, somebody I admire, respect to no end. You know, it's to the point I call him Captain America, because he's everything you want in an American. I'm just telling you, Lee Roberts is your guy. So, but I think the fans would enjoy Lee Roberts and I kind of closing this thing out with our slogan. As always, it's Southern Miss
to the top. Yes, well, sir. I can't begin to describe how much I enjoyed catching up with my quarterback, Lee Roberts, right there. Well, back to Southern Miss baseball for a minute. And at the turn of the century, we had an outstanding pitcher on the mound, and his name was Chad Rogers. And here's Chad telling us a story about how some of that success came with the help of a four-leaf clover.
So one of my favorite Southern Miss moments would have to be my senior year. We were in Cincinnati, and I had had a couple of outings prior to coming into that weekend where I was struggling a little bit and wanted to get back on track, and I think our coaches knew that. But I distinctly remember one evening getting ready for bed, and I got a knock on the door, and it was Coach Burrows and Coach Barry. And they came to my door, and they spoke to me and basically said that they believed in me and were confident in me and knew that I was going to come out and pitch a heck of a game the next day. And, you know, they gave me a little four-leaf clover that they had found on the field that day. And they said, you don't need luck, but anytime you find a four-leaf clover, it's always good to have in your back pocket. So I stuck it in the hat band inside my hat. And I remember thinking how cool that was that they took the time to come see me before I took them out the next day. And it gave me a ton of confidence. I felt so good that those guys believed in me along with Coach Palmer, and they just took extra time to really care about the players and, you know, ultimately just making you feel really good about being a Golden Eagle. So next day comes out, I go to the field and I gather my team, I tell them the story, I show them the four-leaf clover, and I said, we don't need this, but it's a cool memory that we're going to establish because we're going to go out there and win this game today. And luckily, our team had a great day and were able to get plenty of runs for us to win the game. And we walked away with a W that day in Cincinnati. And it was just a real cool story about great coaching and confidence and belief as a team. And just the whole thing was a great experience.
Well, thanks so much for sending that story into the show, Chad Rogers. Well, that's it for another edition of Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we're on a push for 1,000+ subscribers right now, as we're limited to what we can do on YouTube until we get 1,000+. So I'm going to ask you to do something that's absolutely free and easy to do, and that's go to our YouTube page, Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime, and hit that subscribe button. Well, until next time, as always, it's Southern Miss to the top.